Hello, this is S.K. Williams, and I am now a pauper. Well, not really. I have money in the bank, but not as much money as I should have. And, considering the era we live in, I have no visible means of support. What I mean by that is this. My debit card was compromised, meaning that someone had gained my number and used it for purchases, which I did not make. Specifically, I live in the Chattanooga area of Tennessee, and someone went to New Jersey and used my card. At a gas station, no less. Given that I can't drive, it should be fairly obvious that I'm not buying gas for my car. It is equally obvious that I didn't go to New Jersey. In fact, I've never been to New Jersey in my life. Perhaps not to you, dear listener, but to anyone who knows me and can vouchsafe the fact that I was indeed where I live. I was in Tennessee. As a consequence, my card was deactivated by FraudWatch, and I have had to report the fraudulent purchases to my bank. Purchases which, at the time of this recording, were actually over a week ago, but I didn't really notice because I don't do a lot of shopping. I actually didn't buy anything in that week, so I didn't notice my card had been deactivated by FraudWatch. But, all the same, my card had been deactivated, and I have, in fact, reported the fraud. I hope to get my money back that was stolen, and it wasn't a tremendous amount. It was $32 and some change in one instance, and around $65 in another instance. But it is still my money, and it was still stolen. This is the world we live in. I live in a low crime rate area, which according to the atheist community should be a high crime rate area since it has high religious salinity, and we all know religiosity goes with criminality according to the Zuckerman and Paul study. So, being in a deeply religious area, I must be rife in crime. The fact that we're not must be this unusual statistical anomaly. It's not. Religious areas tend to have lower crime rate than secular areas, at least using the definitions most use. I would actually say everyone is religious, but that is neither here nor there, and it's not really the topic of this video. But what is this? Even though this is a low crime rate area, there is no place that is a no crime rate area. Besides, the fact that my card was being used in New Jersey would indicate that the thieves are not locals. If they were someone locally who managed somehow to get my card and then go to New Jersey, that would be one thing, but more than likely they got my information online, and that they themselves actually live either in New Jersey or in the surrounding area. But regardless of which, it is a distressing situation to be in when someone gains your information. Of course, the bank could have printed me a card today, but I prefer those with raised numbers because I don't have particularly good eyesight, so I shall have to wait 2 weeks for my card. I am really dependent on cards, though, since I have grown accustomed to not having money, and I don't really have a system organized to take care of change when I do. So I will wait the 2 weeks. My mother will purchase me food so that I can survive the 2 weeks, and she will pay my bills for me. I'll pay her back, of course, but this is the situation I find myself in. It's a situation that I feel many people can relate to and some have experienced, although I wish that weren't true. I wish no one had to go through this. Granted, there are in fact worse things to go through, especially since banks are insured, and while there's a chance they can't prove that the purchases are fraudulent and I don't get my money back, it wasn't a huge sum. It's simply about $120. But it could have been worse if it hadn't been caught, or if the first purchase that went through was a significantly larger one. However, it was from my checking account, so it couldn't have been much larger. I very rarely keep large sums in my checking account. I prefer the savings precisely for this contingency. I usually transfer money from my savings to my checking account when I believe I shall be shopping, and I keep a small sum of about $300 or so in my checking account on average, just in case. But yeah, I don't usually keep much. But still, they could have paid for the $300. They could have paid for something that was $150 in one go, in which case I would have lost $30 more, or perhaps $200. Maybe they would go on a shopping spree. People like this, thieves, they could do a lot. They could have stolen a lot worse, though, and they could have done so more violently. They could have broken into my house. And again, my brother died this year, so this isn't the worst thing that has happened to me this year. It's definitely not the worst thing that has happened to me in my life. But it is still troubling. We live in a world of sin and despair. This is why I promote Christian values, for as much as Christians are demonized these days for being evil and hypocritical, Christian teaching does instill compassion. Even if it were true that Christians don't have compassion and are backstabbing hypocrites, that would be less because Christianity is evil and more because they do not follow it. And the truth is, the stories of how awful Christians are as people are, shall we say, exaggerated. Most Christians aren't as bad as the media makes them out to be. They are neither the mindless idiots, nor are they the raving bigots or backstabbing hypocrites that they are made out to be. The same, I think, is true of other groups, such as not all Muslims being terrorists and the like. But even with Islam, I think if we had Islamic values as a culture, not necessarily as extreme as Saudi Arabia or a place like that, but just the general principles of Islam, we would have a better society. This is because of what I said earlier. Religion is something everyone has. But religion does not make society better. Specific religious teachings do. We love to say that religion and philosophy are two distinct things, but they are really not. Religion is nothing more than the things you believe, and it will only affect your behavior if you actually believe it and live by it. And the same is true of philosophy. Even the philosophy of idealists like Gene Roddenberry, who created Star Trek, where religion has died and we've replaced it with scientific understanding of the world, and we live by a humanist philosophy, it's nothing but a religion. We pretend it's not because it's atheistic, but it is, and that's all religion is. And I do believe that promoting good moral values is one of the chief aims of religious institutions. And provided that the religion does, in fact, teach proper morals, you will have a result that is positive for society. It is basically this: a world in which we all live by the golden rule of doing unto others as we would have them do unto us. And yes, I know, some atheists would say that that's flawed, but they would miss the point of it as usual. And again, I'm talking about militant atheists, not all atheists. And they're going to contest everything I say anyway. It is distressing, though, to know someone can gain your information and take what you have, and remain anonymous. These types of crimes are the hardest to solve. The people who do this aren't even in your area and can disappear into the night rather easily. Even if the stores had security cameras, and even if they physically walked in with some sort of replica card, they're not going to check all the footage. They won't know every card. They won't be able to match every card with every patron, not in a busy place. And it is unlikely that they will be caught, at least in any individual case. Many times these thieves are in fact caught, but they're caught after they do it several times, and you can't exactly verify who their victims were in each case. But the victims, like me, we are left in distress. Sometimes we don't get our money back because we can't prove it's ours, and even if we do, we have to wait for it. Wait for the investigations to be concluded, usually conducted by the bank and possibly law enforcement. People like this don't care who they hurt, though, and they don't think about it. Or perhaps they do, to an extent. Perhaps in their minds they are compassionate in that they only take small amounts. After all, there seems not to be a record of an attempt at larger purchases. They only took $32 in one instance and $65 in another. Perhaps they think this is a small, insignificant amount that will go unnoticed or that I can do without. But what if I had lost my job? In fact, I am not working. I have health issues and I'm preparing for surgery. The SSI payments I'm receiving aren't very high. I intend on going back to work, of course, after my health issues, but they just assume. They don't care who they hurt, because they don't know who they're hurting. And perhaps even if they did, they wouldn't care. Or perhaps they would, and they can just live in a delusion that they are harming no one and taking only a little money. Or perhaps they would have robbed me blind and taken all my money if they could. I don't know. But what I do know is this is a distressing situation, and I'm hoping anyone who hears this knows that others have been there as well, and that others can talk about it with them, and that they are not alone, and that others are there to help if they can, even if all they can do is bring comfort. I don't have much else to say other than it is an interesting turn of fate that the first time I've had enough time to make a new video was a time when I had to clear my schedule to take care of my financial situation due to a theft. I haven't been able to contact people via email, I haven't been able to call friends, I've been swamped. And to deepen the problem, because I cleared off all the things I need to do, because things piled up on me, well, I had to push things back that I really need to do again. Which also means that I'm going to be overworked still and am further behind. Thank you, thieves. The most ironic part is, a friend of mine took me to the spirit store. It was the day after Halloween, All Saints' Day, and one of the last 2 days of the spirit store being opened, since it closes after Halloween. It usually stays open 2 days after, and holds a sale where everything is 50% off. But this year that wasn't true, though. A lot of it was only 25% off, and some of it wasn't marked down at all, but it doesn't really matter. Because when I got to the front, I could not pay for my purchases. The things I wanted to buy were not buyable, because my card had been deactivated. I called the bank, had them reactivate my card temporarily to make a short-term purchase. It was deactivated a few minutes later, and I had promised my friend I would buy her dinner. I did not. She had to buy me dinner. Since this was on a Saturday, I couldn't take care of the banking issue until the following Monday, which was today. I'm recording this on the 4th of November 2019, according to the Gregorian calendar, and I know I said I would use the Julian calendar, but this is dealing with an outer world issue and not the channel. Other people who found themselves in this situation, I know how hard it is and how difficult it can be. But we can persevere. And things do get better over time. And God will always guide us in the end. Well, that's all I have to say, so I shall end the video now. Thank you. God bless. And goodbye.